Hi, this is LaJune with LaJune Singleton LLC, Fitness, Health, Nutrition, and Wellness Podcast, Season 5. Today, I would like to welcome a holistic nutritional consultant and a health coach who works with individuals healing from stubborn chronic health issues by overcoming the underlying root causes of imbalancement. Kyria Marie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you give a background on yourself?
Yes, background, everything.
Yes.
How much?
Everything you want to share.
Once upon a time, let's see, I was born in California, and I mean, as far as with health goes, since that's what you're diving to on your podcast, I've had a passion for health since I was really little. Just like love tinkering in the kitchen and making my own little concoctions, or if my friends would ever get hurt, I wasn't afraid of blood. I'd like go run and grab a Band-Aid and things. So it's been a passion for a really long time. And then really after university, I became a public school teacher and loved doing that work, but really devoted everything to it. And my health just crashed and burned without going into too much detail, or I can, there's just a lot of different health challenges that I was going through. So I just started the journey of self-discovery and tried to, fix myself, and it wasn't really working. I was trying all these different things, and then tried working with some conventional practitioners and still wasn't working, and then finally found a holistic nutritionist, and she did my functional blood chemistry analysis and just totally transformed my life. So then I went back to graduate school and got a master's degree in the subject, and now I help people because it was so nice to find those solutions myself. So that's where we are today.
Okay. And what was some of the reasons that you felt that you needed to have the test?
Because she recommended it. I mean, I had tried, reading different books, and I had tried reading different blogs or YouTube, and just kind of like self-experimenting to see if anything would, help me. And it wasn't working, and I didn't want to take a bunch of different like pharmaceutical drugs. So she had a really great practice, and I trusted her, and she was able to see things inside my blood work that I would have never even known to look for. It just felt like magic to me and like a miracle. So I wanted to learn how to help people like that also. And yeah, it's really interesting. I really believe that we all have the answers within our own bodies if we just know how to read it, right? So yeah, it was one test, but it totally transformed my life.
Okay. And the clients that you work with, what is is it men, is it women, is it both, is it kids? What is the clientele that you work with, and what are some of the things that outside of chronic health that you work with them, and what does a session look like with you?
Yeah, great question. So we really work with everybody. I mean, we've worked with young kids before, we have a lot of clients, in their 70s, really anybody and everybody, because we all have blood, right? So I mean, if somebody's a vampire, then probably wouldn't be a good fit for our practice. But other than that, everybody works. Most of our practice is women, but we do work with men as well. So we do, like what you mentioned, like a lot of chronic health issues. A lot of people that come to us, they've tried things on their own, or they've tried working with their conventional doctors, and they just still haven't gotten the results they want. And they want somebody to look a little bit deeper to see what's actually going on a cellular level, like what those imbalances are. And they want to be able to help heal themselves naturally through things like nutrition or mindset or lifestyle changes. So a lot of things that we see in our practice are like hormonal imbalances or gut dysbiosis, like different gut challenges, things like mental health issues like anxiety or depression. A lot of times people will come to us and they'll just say, I don't feel good. I don't really know what's wrong, but I used to feel better. And I know it's not just menopause, or it's not just some stress at work. Like I know that something is wrong. People will come to us and they're like, I don't know what it is, but there's something off. Can you tell me? So then we do some investigating.
Okay. And with that, I know, especially with women, the dieting, the exercising, and it's the question of my stomach isn't going down. Is it hormonal? Is it health related, what is it? I'm sure you see that all the time with clients. What are some of the things that you recommend for those clients?
Yes. So as far as like stubborn metabolism or like it being hard to lose weight, yeah.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so that's where it helps to really just figure it out. And um, especially with the work that you do also as like a health nutrition coach and like personal training, like we know that there's so many reasons why somebody can have a hard time losing weight, right? So it's my job and my team's job to really like put on the glasses and like do some research and see what's happening. Maybe it's has to do with like a thyroid imbalance for somebody, right? Maybe they have an autoimmune thyroid disease, or maybe there is like some gut dysbiosis or an infection going on. Sometimes we even see things like past trauma, somebody's gone through something really hard in their life and, they just haven't been able to heal that memory yet or that experience, which is a whole nother level of transformation and healing, but really, really powerful. Sometimes it has to do with mental health or things like disordered eating or self-sabotage or just being confused and not knowing what's going on. So we kind of explore all the bases and we say, okay, is this hormones? Is it an infection? Is it mental health? Is it past trauma? Like maybe it's a combination of all of those things. So we like to say that we use both qualitative and quantitative data. So we really talk to them, we see like what's going on in their life, what their health history is, if they have been a victim of crime or trauma or, just other things in their life. And it also depends on the client, right? Like how open they are and what kind of support they want. Because some people are, they really just want to focus on just like the weight loss. And some people really want to focus on like everything in their life and see that it's connected to other areas. So I guess long story short, it's really a personalized journey to see what is going to help move the needle the most for them, right? To help them get the best results that's sustainable also.
And you speak about mental health, and I think that's important because the thing of it is a lot of people don't recognize how mental health, nutrition, and health all tie in together. Can you kind of speak on that from your experience?
Yeah. So like what you said, mental health and nutrition and even just like past trauma or different things can all be connected. And I like to think of it as, everything is kind of like nutrition, right? So what we're eating clearly is what we usually think about, but also what we're thinking or what we've experienced. There's a really great book called The Body Keeps the Score, which kind of talks about how trauma, things that we've experienced in our life or hard situations or maybe different types of abuse can actually be stored in the body, right? Like our body has a memory of its own. So being able to work through those experiences can be challenging, right? But when working with a practitioner who's there for you, it can make it a lot easier. And not only can it help to heal like the weight loss, which is the example that you brought up, but also other things too, right? Like when there's a lot of stress or cortisol or these hormones that are out of balance in the body, that can be, a reaction of like PTSD, right? Or just like a reaction of abuse or different things that they've gone through. So it's deep, right? And this work that we're doing is really powerful because so many people have gone through these challenges, but not really been seen as like the whole person that they are, right? Sometimes if they just go into an office, they get like an antidepressant, which is very helpful sometimes. And some people need that. But if they're not working with somebody who can really dig deeper and who's not afraid to go there, right, to those places and see how they can help heal that, then yeah, it's all connected.
So would you say that what a person's eating kind of heightens the mental health problems that they're experiencing?
Yeah, I think so. Our food definitely affects our mental health. When you said that, I kind of smiled because I remember back when I was a public school teacher, one of my students like came in and I really love my students and I was really passionate about teaching, but I worked in a really challenging environment for our kids. Like 93% of them are below the poverty line. There was literally no grocery store there. Like a lot of my kids shopped at the
desert.
food desert. a food desert. So for people who are listening might not know what that is, it's like what Lejeune just said, it's a food desert. Like there's no food around really. So my students would go to the gas station to get their breakfast, right? And of course that would affect their mental health or their ability to concentrate during class. Or I remember one student had like a pack of candy and like a Dr. Pepper for breakfast. And it's just hard because like there's so much in our society that clearly can benefit from being restructured, and food is like such an elemental part of that. And then of course that student, like an amazing student, but just that was his food, like that was what he got to eat for breakfast. So then clearly his blood sugar increased, right? And then his focus and concentration decreased. So, but even for many of us, we can see the connection between food that we eat and then the emotions that we feel, or the mental attention span that we have, or our memory, or things like that. Yeah.
And the memory is definitely because a lot of adults suffer from brain fog.
Yes.
And it's based on what we're eating and what we're putting in our bodies. So what are some of the things that you suggest to clients that come in and say, hey, I'm experiencing brain fog. I'm tired all the time. I experience fatigue. I have no energy, things like that. What are some of the things that you suggest or say to them?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because you're absolutely right. So many people experience brain fog, and there's just a lot in our society today, whether it's, all these different toxins, right, that are in the water or in our food supply, or our soil that isn't as healthy as our grandparents' soil, right? But as far as brain fog goes, I really just look at their body. So kind of going back to like the qualitative and quantitative data. So from the functional blood chemistry analysis that we do, we're able to see like maybe what foods would be best for them or not so good for them, right? So some people maybe, like if they have an autoimmune disease, right, then they might be a better fit for more of like an anti-inflammatory autoimmune paleo diet. So maybe something like reducing the amounts of like nuts and seeds or beans or rice. Other people, if they have brain fog, they might have more of like an oxalate sensitivity. So people usually like this one because then they don't have to eat almonds, they don't have to eat spinach, those types of like healthy things. But everyone's just so different. I mean, if we're just saying in general brain fog, it's like sugar, right? It's like my beautiful student who had like the soda pop and the candy, because that's just like, boom, glucose and sugar spikes and then drops. So that would be an easier thing. What else that's kind of more general, like gluten, right? We kind of know that like bread and things like that is just more inflammatory. Some people are more sensitive to it than others, but if there are maybe two things, if somebody was really dealing with a lot of brain fog or migraines, if you think about our brain like a muscle, and if it gets really inflamed, or, somebody deals with headaches and things, then definitely just reducing sugar and gluten should help.
And can you talk about the blood test that you guys offer? Kind of what that looks like for a potential patient. What does that look like for them coming in to you?
Yeah, so for our clients, it's a mouthful. It's functional blood chemistry analysis. We just like to call it FBCA for short. But it really is a deep dive into their health. So looking, deep at their blood, and it could be some similar markers. Like a lot of people will go to the doctor and they'll get a CBC done, right? Or they'll get their glucose measured. Maybe they'll get things like vitamin D measured, or their thyroid, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. But our functional blood chemistry analysis, when we give our report to our clients, it's about 50 pages long, like 50. It's very comprehensive, so very detailed. So the reason being is because most of the time when people go get their labs done, they're just being compared to the average American. And unfortunately, the average American is not very healthy, right? No, it's sad but true. So why would, people who are listening to this, people like you and me who really want to be healthy, you don't want to be the average American, you want to be healthier than that. So the ranges in functional blood chemistry analysis are a little bit more narrow. They're like a little bit more strict. But the reason why that's helpful is because then when they get their report, they can see everything that's perfectly in balance, right? Everything that is like, oh, this is good to know. This is all perfect, not just normal American, like don't worry about it, but it's all perfect. And then they can see things that are really more of a severe imbalance. And those things would show up on like a conventional report as like abnormal, right? Most of the time people get their blood work done, it's all normal, or maybe there's like one or two things that are marked as like, check this out. And then the best metaphor that I have for thinking about the difference between the two is like FBCA is when you're driving down the road and it's a green light. So you're cruising, you're listening to your music, you're having fun in the car, right? And then the yellow light goes on. So you know to slow down, and then the light turns red, right? But conventional lab work is kind of like green, everything's quote unquote normal, and then it's red. It's like, uh-oh, now there's a problem, mayday, mayday, or now there's a prescription, or now there's a disease or diabetes or something, but there was never really any warning sign, right? So for people who are more proactive, who believe that like prevention is the best cure, or for people who just have not been feeling good and they haven't been getting the support that they need elsewhere, then the FBCA is helpful because it shows us all those yellows, right? So all those micro imbalances, because when there's a lot of things that are out of balance, it ends up feeling bad, right? People don't feel so good. And it's just really helpful to get those answers, like real answers in your blood to see what exactly is going on.
And with that, does that also offer like food sensitivities, food allergies, intolerance, and things like that in the blood tests that you offer?
So with those tests, there's a lot of mixed research on them. So the short answer to that is from the FBCA, we can see what foods or what type of diet would be best from their blood work. The other answer, I don't recommend those food allergy tests or food intolerance tests or food sensitivity tests, because first, usually people have gut dysbiosis, like a gut imbalance. And if the gut needs to be healed first, then spending money on a food allergy test is kind of like a waste of money, right? Because a lot of things will show up as being sensitive or allergic, but really the first step is just healing the gut. So we start with the FBCA first. If the gut needs to be healed, we focus on supporting that process. And then maybe later on, we can do some testing with foods. Yeah. But I'm glad you brought that up, because the food allergy tests are so kind of like popular and cool these days, but they're not that accurate. Or then people will get them and they're like, well, great, I can never have a banana again. But maybe that's not true. Maybe they just actually need to clear an infection that's in their gut first, and then they can eat bananas. So I would say start with the FBCA, and that will help people to learn what diet is best for them.
So I'm sure for listeners, the question would be, how would they heal a gut infection? What are the steps, or what does that look like for them?
Like the $1 million question. There's so many different infections and bugs, and it depends. Is it like a bacterial infection, a viral infection, a parasitic infection, a fungal infection? Lots of different infections. But the process that we do is we help to figure out what kind of infection is it, right? And then we just use, usually, and again, it varies depending on the person, if they're super sensitive, if they're a child versus if they're an elder, if they have other, medications or other diseases or things that they're dealing with. Everybody's different, but kind of in general, we do like an herbal support. So that's usually our recommendation. Usually somebody would get like an antibiotic if they were working with a conventional practitioner. And sometimes that's necessary, but anti means against, right? Bio means life. So that's against life. So an antibiotic will oftentimes wipe out the bad things like the infection, but also wipe out all the good things, right? And you're smiling like,
Yes, I know. I used to get sinus infections all the time.
Yes.
And I was on antibiotics at least 5 to 6 times a year.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I know it breaks down your good gut health. And, people would say, do probiotics to help build it back up. But the long-term effects of antibiotics, which, I know that people don't understand also with medication, the long-term effects of it, of how it breaks your immune system down, your, enzymes, and how you're able to digest food.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And it's so important. And of course, sometimes some people need it, but I think oftentimes it becomes the first approach when really like what we do is like use different herbs, right? And it depends on what type of infection it is. And maybe people take antibiotics for a week or two and then it's done. Maybe with the herbs, we do it for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, right? So it might take a little bit longer, but then you have all the good gut bacteria and the bad guys are gone. People are feeling better. It's way more gentle because it can be tricky, especially like what you said, if you had to take 5 rounds every year. Probiotics, yes, but sometimes it takes more than that to rebuild, the good guys. So yeah, it's a really important thing.
And one thing I've noticed, especially with Americans, is we're not chewing our food properly anymore.
No, just swallow like one bite and then down.
Yeah, because we're always on a go, go, go. And I'm sure, you get clients that come in and they're like, well, I don't really have time to eat. I'm eating on the go. I chew 2 or 3 times and I swallow it. And it's not able to really break down like it's supposed to.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. It's one of the easiest things, but I get it. Some of our clients are so busy that it's hard for them to eat. And it sounds sad almost, right? Like we're humans and we should be able to have 5 minutes to eat something. So when I'm working in my practice with our clients, we really like to take a step back and look at the big picture. It's like, okay, well, we could, say that you have to chew your food 30 times or something, but what else is happening in life? Like, how are your relationships? Like, how is your work? Like, how is your commute? What is all this stress? Because if it's preventing somebody from just taking 5 minutes to chew their food and eat, maybe there's other things that can be shifted in their life or in their priorities or in their schedule it all comes down to self-care, right? So just being like, I am worth 2 minutes to chew my food. Right. So when people have that belief of that self-care, that self-love, then it's not just going to help them to chew their food better. It's going to help them to make all the decisions in their life better, which is going to ultimately help them to have a better, more enjoyable life, which is what it's all about. Right. So yes, the chewing the food is definitely important. And, I would say for everybody listening to this, just chew your food. It should really be like liquid when we swallow it. Because even for people, there's really interesting, can I share a story about a research study? Yeah. Interesting research study. This might, sound a little bit strange, but they took one group of people who were eating really healthy salad, but they were like in the car, like literally eating on the go, in between appointments or picking up their kids or whatever. So you can imagine they weren't really chewing their food, right? And they were just swallowing it and they were stressed. They were like driving around or in between business meetings, whatnot. And then this other group of people were eating hamburgers, but they were hanging out with their friends. It was after work, so we would kind of think, okay, which one is like healthier, this like kind of industrial hamburger or this salad? And they found that actually people who were eating the hamburger got more nutrients from it because they were actually like digesting their food, right? So this goes into like rest and digest, like sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system. So when we're actually relaxed, and we get to like take a deep breath, or some people pray before they eat, or just have a moment of gratitude for their food or who made their food, or some people are hanging out with friends and family and happy when they eat, then they're actually able to be in that rest and digest state. So then whatever they're eating, they're going to absorb more nutrients from it, right? Versus if somebody's eating the healthiest salad, but they're so stressed out, like you said, they're not even chewing their food, then they're not going to get the best benefit from it. Now, the key here is, ideally we're eating healthy things and also able to digest it. So, it doesn't necessarily mean like go through the drive-through, but just be happy while you're eating, and that is probably better than being depressed and eating something healthy. But we like to say swap and upgrade. So just make one tiny step better, right? Like just upgrade your life a little tiny bit. And starting by chewing your food is a great idea.
And that makes a lot of sense, because if you have a hectic day and you haven't eaten all day and you're just grabbing something quick and you're trying to scarf it down, it's a stress. You're stressed because your body is starving and you have to eat and you're in a stressful mode. So that makes sense. And if you're eating a burger and you're amongst friends in a positive environment, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So are most of your clients that you work with are individuals that are overcoming some form of trauma that has led to chronic health issues?
I would say most of my clients, I wouldn't say most of them, but I would say a lot of them. A lot of them are overcoming past trauma. Um, and it's just become something more clear in my profession doing this work that it's oftentimes not addressed other places. So when we have our clients fill out their health intake form, there's a part that asks if they've experienced trauma or crime or things like that in the past. And sometimes clients will kind of connect the dots themselves, like, oh, I started having these, gut issues when I was going through divorce, or, ever since I was, abused as a child, then I started having, these like really, really poor sleep and like migraines, right? So sometimes people will connect the dots or have an intuitive feeling themselves. But sometimes we'll kind of see that and go through it with them. So it's all too common, unfortunately, right? Just like the amount of trauma and abuse that's going on in our world today. But each person, like you doing the work that you're doing and sharing these podcasts is really helping to be that portal of possibility, that there's a way to heal and there's a way to like move through and beyond that. And a way, I think, to use those hard experiences that we had in the past as like stepping stones to be our best and brightest selves in the future.
I agree. So does your practice offer mental health therapy, a psychiatrist, or is that outsourced or something that you would recommend they find themselves?
Yeah, so if we do feel that somebody needs, an actual therapist or, to go through something like psychotherapy or something along those lines of what you're mentioning, then we'll absolutely make those recommendations. What we do with our clients is health coaching. So we cover, mental health, and we support our clients in mind, body, and spirit. And sometimes that's enough, but definitely if we feel like somebody really needs to work with a therapist, then we will absolutely recommend that. Sometimes people need a whole team of people to support them and help their transformation, which is great. Get a personal trainer and a therapist and a nutritionist and do your functional blood chemistry analysis. Like, why not, right? Sometimes just one person is a great place to start.
I totally agree. Because when it comes to mind, body, emotion, and spirit, I don't think people know how much all of that ties in together and how it affects each little part of you. So that is very, very important. Can you tell people, what you have coming up, what's next for you in your business, or any type of promotions or anything that you have going on?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're always doing fun and new things. Let's see. I think the main thing that I'd like to just share with your listeners is our free webinar. We have a free webinar on like the 5 ways to help heal yourself naturally. And it covers, more about what we're talking about here on this podcast, like healthy foods or how to support maybe hormonal imbalances or thyroid disorders or mental health, like you just mentioned, or weight loss, things like that, and kind of diving in a little bit more of how that works with like the functional blood chemistry analysis or with the nutrition or the mind body approach. So that's just on our website, which is www.kyriahealth.com. And it's free. People can just sign up and they're welcome to get that as a gift. And we offer different free online events too. And we'll be having workshops and retreats out here in Hawaii. Maybe you'll come out in June and
yes.
our coach here, a personal trainer, make us get up in the morning and do boot camp or something. But yeah, I would say just checking us out on the website is probably the best place, or if people are interested in, doing their own functional blood chemistry analysis. We work with people all over the world with that.
And that was going to be my next question. Is it just locally, or is it a service that you provide to anyone everywhere?
Yeah, it's available all over the world. We work with clients in many different countries too, but yeah, especially anywhere in the States is super easy. So that's a beautiful blessing to be able to share. And people want to connect on social media, they can find us at Kyria Health, which is KYRIAHEALTH. your listeners are welcome to email us, info@kyriahealth.com. But yeah, our website, kyriahealth.com, is going to have all of that and even more goodies.
So I'm sure one of the questions that the listeners will have is, how does the blood process work? You send out something to them, they mail it back to you? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. The way that it works, let's say somebody's in the United States of America, then they'll sign up, they'll just order online, one-time payment, or we have a payment plan option, and then we'll send them the paperwork, right? So like we said, qualitative and quantitative data. So we'll ask them about their health history or their symptoms, if they're taking any current medications, what their health goals are, things like that, because we make a custom health program for every single one of our clients. So, when people tell us what they want, then we can put that in. And then after they finish their paperwork, we send them their labs. So we order all their labs for them, right? So everything that we're going to test, we order that, and then they'll get it in an email, their little piece of paper, and they just go to their nearest LabCorp and complete it there. Or if maybe somebody needs like a mobile phlebotomist, sometimes people need people to come to their house, then we can set that up for them and somebody can come do their blood draw at home. But yeah, they don't need to pay any money to go into LabCorp. They just take the piece of paper in there. We already paid for it for them. And then they send my team and I the results. We crunch the numbers, we go through it pretty thorough and compare it to their health intake form so we can see everything. And then we design that 50-page, report for them. That way they actually understand. Because so often I feel like people, maybe they got blood tests done before, but they don't really know what any of it means, right? They're just looking like, is there any?
You start to Google and to see what the word bun means, or
what is that? So that's okay. I mean, it's good for people to Google, but really what's important about working with somebody who does this FBCA is seeing the patterns, right? So what does the glucose mean when the cholesterol is high, when there's thyroglobulin antibodies, when the creatinine is low, right? So that would never happen in Google. Like you can't compare all those different things. So that's why we put together this huge report to basically help tell people these are all the things that are perfectly in balance, like amazing, let's do a happy dance celebration. And then these are the things that are the most concerning. And there's these couple of things that are okay, but they're a little bit in the warning sign. So they get that report that they can really learn everything. They will not need to Google anything. We'll tell them it all in the report. And then we put together their health program, so maybe it includes some nutrition or maybe a meal plan or maybe a couple of vitamins, right? We'll put that all together for them, tell them exactly what to do. Our job is to make it easy. Like people are busy, like what you said, if they can barely take time to chew their food, we want to make it as easy as them to really improve their health goals, because that's what makes us happy, right? To be able to see them improve and accomplish that. And then after that, they jump on a health coaching call. So like a Zoom call or a video call with our top health coach to really go over every single question that they have, to help see like, are they ready to go? Do they have anything else? And that's just how it goes. It's pretty straightforward and the results are remarkable.
Okay. And for the herbs, do you provide the herbs for them, or is it a store that they would go to get the herbs? How does that work? Because I'm sure that will be another question.
Yeah, you're asking very good practical questions. So it's just an online store, and we give our clients a really generous, savings and discount and free shipping and everything. Because again, we just want to make it as easy as possible. So that's how that part works. We say, maybe these herbs are necessary, or maybe this vitamin is low. I know you and I both know this, but all supplements are different, right? And some are really bad. Some are like, it's better to not take any.
It's like eating candy.
Yes.
Because that's, especially the gummies. So much sugar in the gummies, but
so much sugar. But it just people are just trying. They're just trying their best. So that's why we just make it easy. We're like, look, this is the one supplement that we know helps people to get results fast and safe. So take this one. Yeah.
Okay. And another question I wanted to ask you, are some that says based on Ancestry? I've heard a lot about some of, trying to get back to what our ancestors ate, to get back that healthy imbalancement in our bodies, where maybe we're supposed to be vegetarian, or maybe you're just supposed to incorporate beef, something like that. So is that something that you do with clients, or recommendations, or how does that work for you?
Yeah. Good question. I mean, if somebody wants those tests, or if somebody wants a food allergy test, if somebody wants a stool test and an infection test, I mean, we can order a gazillion tests for people. You know what I mean? Like, we can do that. Again, our job is just to make it as easy and sustainable for clients. So we just start with the functional blood chemistry analysis, just to keep it simple. And then if we see that, okay, maybe we should look into Ancestry more, or maybe we should do a stool sample or something like that, we'll 100% recommend that. But we just say, starting with the FBCA, that alone is like so enlightening for so many of us, just to really understand our body and what's happening on a cellular level. So we would start with that first. But of course, if somebody wants other extra tests, then we can, add those on and work that out too. But it becomes a process. Yeah.
Okay. And when is the check-in for you with clients? They did the blood work, they've done the work. Do you do more follow-up tests to see where they are, or is it based on if the client says, I feel great now, I don't need this anymore?
I'm good. Well, that's the goal, right? Is that the client feel great. Yeah, it again just depends on the client. So some clients really like to have, like regular coaching and like to have regular meetings. Other clients just like to do, they'll do their FBCA every few months and kind of check in, and they'll kind of like do it on their own and then check back in a few months later. So it varies, and sometimes they'll do our coaching program with like regular meetings, and then maybe they'll graduate from that, and then they'll kind of just do their blood test on their own and check in. So it's really to each their own, right? Just saying like how much support each person wants and how much support each person needs.
I thank you so much for providing all this information, because it is definitely needed with blood work, and just giving detailed information, because it is confusing. I just had some blood work done 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'm Googling to see what it means. And I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What is fun, and why is it low? And I'm like, okay. So it is necessary, because people don't know, and you go to Google, you get scared. You're like, oh my God, some people like, I'm gonna die, and it's not really that serious. So it is important to have someone that can break down what's going on in their blood work, and that's available, because sometimes all practitioners are not that readily available to explain.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And we're really grateful to be able to offer this service. So many of our clients have been like, my doctors just always told me I was normal. Like, everything was normal, it was all in my head, or like, it's just whatever people have, had to go through, which is so unfortunate, but it is important. I think of it as like taking the power back, right? Like, it's our body. It's ultimately our responsibility. If we don't feel good, there are quicker, faster, easier ways to help the healing. I'm sorry that you were Googling. Maybe we'll have to do your blood test, and we'll share about it on the
podcast. Yes. I'm definitely open to doing that. I was thinking that as you were saying it, because I had a history of gastritis, and I was going to the doctor, and they could not figure out, this was years ago, they couldn't figure out what was going on. They were like, well, maybe it's stomach cancer. It's not stomach cancer. They're like, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And I had to do an endoscopy and a colonoscopy, and found out it was gastritis based on my diet and my trauma. And that's the thing that I was going to the doctor for a month, every other day. They're doing blood work, they're doing urine, they're doing stool samples to try to figure out MRIs, CAT scans, nothing was coming up. And I hear people saying that now well, my stomach hurts. I don't know what's wrong. They can't find anything. I know, was it diverticulitis is a really big one. I'd never heard it before. And I know at least 5 people who have it. Leaky gut. I heard that 2 years ago, never heard it before. And I was like, what the heck is leaky gut? So those are things that are coming up that a lot of women are experiencing, but it's not really talked about. It's not much information on it. So it's, it's definitely that. I know with the bloating, and I know food is not digesting because of the work that I've done, where I was that person that was grabbing food, and I'm not I wasn't the happy eater. I'm chewing 2 or 3 times and I'm swallowing because I'm heading to another client. So those are the things that I think is important when looking at, and I think the test that you offer and the service you offer is very valuable for individuals to get a better understanding where they're not taking pharmaceutical medicines that may be unnecessary, because when you go to the doctor, you say something's wrong. Okay, here you go. And we don't look at the side effects of it. We don't look at the long-term effects of how it impacts our body, it impacts our mind, it impacts our sleep.
Yeah, so important. So important to ask those questions that you're asking, right? It's like, how is this going to affect me for the long term? So
right.
Yeah, the work you're doing is so powerful. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So can you give where we can find you again, social media and your website? I would definitely recommend to reach out to her for any services, because if you're experiencing stomach problems, like I said, leaky gut is a popular one. And sometimes you don't know you have leaky gut. You can just be getting bloated for no reason every time you eat. It could be a combination of you're not chewing your food properly or it's not digesting, but she can help you figure it out. So can you provide your information again?
Thank you, Lejeune. It is KyriaHealth.com. So KyriaHealth.com, or at Kyria Health on Facebook or Instagram. You can email us info at KyriaHealth.com. And yeah, we're just happy to be able to offer this to help people. So feel free to reach out, and we look forward to hearing from you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm Lejeune Singleton, LLC, Fitness, Health, Nutrition. Please, if you're experiencing any type of health problems and you feel that you're going to the doctor and the doctor is saying we can't find anything, reach out to her because she can find it. So please do that, because don't, think that you're being a hypochondriac. And you hear that a lot where people are saying, the doctor, our friends or our family are saying, I'm a hypochondriac because the doctors can't find anything. I actually had somebody on 3 weeks ago. It took 12 years for her to be diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Yeah. So please reach out, get the help any way you can to get diagnosed. It's not something that you should be living with every day. Until next time, I'm Lejeune. Thank you.